The rain hammers against the diner window like fists demanding entry, and I'm grateful for the noise. It drowns out my spiraling thoughts about rent, about the eviction notice taped to my apartment door, about how I'm 28 years old and measuring my life in shifts at a place that smells like grease and broken dreams. "Table 4, babe," Marco calls, and I grab the coffee pot with practiced numbness. That's when he walks in. Not walks. Arrives. The way a storm arrives. Sudden. Undeniable. Impossible to ignore. The door swings open, and 3 men flood in behind him like a tide following the moon. But it's the man in the center who shatters the ordinary hum of the late-night diner. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a jawline that looks carved from marble and eyes so dark they seem to absorb light. He's wearing a charcoal suit that probably costs more than my monthly rent, and his presence is so visceral, so heavy, that even Marco stops calling out orders. I'm staring. I realize I'm staring, and I snap my attention back to table 4, but it's too late. I feel his gaze lock onto me like a predator marking prey. My hands shake as I pour coffee, trying to be invisible. I've learned that invisibility is a survival skill in a place like this. Don't draw attention. Don't make waves. Don't let anyone see you're drowning. But invisible is the last thing I am right now. I can feel his attention like a touch, warm and dangerous, crawling across my skin. I risk a glance. He's still watching me. His men sit around him like lieutenants, eyes forward, shoulders rigid. But he's reclined in the booth, relaxed in a way that suggests he owns not just this diner, but probably the entire block. A faint smirk plays at his mouth, and there's something in that expression that makes my stomach tighten. Amusement at catching me looking, and something darker. Something that promises consequences. I turn away. "Your shift's almost over," Marco says, appearing beside me. His voice is oddly tight. "Maybe punch out early tonight?" "Why would I?" "Just do it, Alessia." I've never heard Marco sound scared. Marco, who breaks up drunk fights and handles every crisis with casual indifference. But he's scared now, and that fear is more unsettling than anything else. I nod mutely and grab a clean apron, positioning myself in the back. Except I don't stay there. I'm not sure what compels me to peek out, to watch. Maybe it's the same instinct that makes you stare at a car accident. Maybe it's something darker. That magnetic pull I felt the moment he entered, like gravity pulling me towards something I shouldn't touch. He orders black coffee. Nothing else. And while he drinks it, he reads something on his phone, and his expression darkens. His jaw clenches. One of his men leans over to whisper something, and whatever it is, it tightens every muscle in his body. Power radiates from him like heat from a furnace. Controlled, deliberate, and absolutely terrifying. Then he looks at me again. This time, I don't look away. Something reckless unfurls in my chest, some part of me that's tired of being afraid, tired of being small. His dark eyes hold mine, and it's like being caught in the gravitational pull of a black hole. I should break the contact. Every instinct screams that I should. I don't. One of his men notices the exchange and immediately straightens, alert. The mafia boss, because I know with absolute certainty that's what he is. The way power clings to him like cologne, raises his hand in a subtle gesture. Calm. The man relaxes, but barely. Then he does something that stops my heart. He stands, and he walks toward me. The diner seems to compress around us. Marco has vanished into the kitchen. The few remaining customers suddenly find their plates very interesting. His men don't move, but their attention pivots like trained weapons. He stops in front of the counter where I'm frozen, coffee pot still in my white-knuckled grip. Up close, he's even more intimidating. Older than I first thought, maybe 40, with silver threading through his dark hair and lines around his eyes that speak of hard decisions and harder nights. There's a scar that splits his left eyebrow, a small imperfection that somehow makes him more dangerous, not less. "You're new," he says. His voice is low, gravelly, with an accent I can't quite place but that rolls like dark velvet. "I've never seen you before." "I've worked here for 2 years," I hear myself say, and I'm shocked by how steady my voice sounds when everything inside me is trembling. A smile ghosts across his mouth. "Then I haven't been paying attention." He pauses, and something shifts in his expression. A flicker of genuine interest beneath the controlled predator. "What's your name?" "Alessia." I don't offer a last name. Some instinct tells me not to. "Alessia," he repeats, and hearing him say it feels like a caress and a threat combined. "I'm Dante Salvatore." The name lands like a stone in still water, creating ripples of recognition and dread. Salvatore. I've heard that name whispered in this neighborhood the way people whisper about ghosts, with reverence and fear. The Salvatore family runs half the underworld in this city, and this man, with his casual confidence and expensive suit and scar-marked face, is clearly not someone low in that hierarchy. "It's nice to meet you." I lie, because what else can I do? "Is it?" He leans against the counter and I catch his scent. Expensive cologne and cigarette smoke and something darker. Something that smells like power. "Because you look terrified." "I'm not." "You're a terrible liar, Alessia." He says this without judgment, almost with approval. It's refreshing. One of his men approaches and whispers something urgent in his ear. Dante's expression hardens, his attention fracturing away from me. For a moment, I see it. The ruthlessness beneath the charm, the thing that makes men fear him. Whatever was said, it was bad news. Straightens, and the moment between us shatters like glass. "My family is having a dinner tomorrow night," he says, his attention snapping back to me with laser focus. "At my home. I need a date. A fiancé to be specific. Someone to convince my mother that I'm not completely consumed by the business." I blink. "I'm sorry, what?" $25,000, he continues, as if I haven't spoken. "Cash, for one evening. You'll wear a dress I provide, smile at the right moments, and pretend you're in love with me. At the end of the night, you'll leave, and you'll never speak of this again. You'll also sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, that prevents you from telling anyone about me, my family, or anything you see. That's..." I search for words. "That's insane." "Yes." He pulls out his phone and opens a notes app, then sets it on the counter facing me. "Write down your address. I'll send someone to pick you up at 7 tomorrow evening. Wear your hair down. And Alessia, don't lie to me about whether you'll show up. I don't take well to betrayal." It's not a threat exactly. It's a statement of fact, delivered with the same tone he might use to order coffee. And that somehow makes it worse. I stare at him, at the phone, at the insane opportunity and the terrifying implications. That money would save me. It would pay my rent, clear my debt, buy me 3 months of breathing room. All I have to do is spend an evening with a man who radiates danger like heat, who looks at me like I'm something he wants to own, and who probably doesn't even know what a normal life looks like. "Why me?" I ask instead of answering. Something flickers across his face. Genuine curiosity, maybe even respect. "Because you're real. Because you're not impressed by me. And because..." He tilts his head slightly. "I think you might be exactly what I need." Before I can respond, before I can ask what that means or tell him absolutely not, one of his men bursts through the door, soaked and panicked. Dante's entire body goes rigid. Words are exchanged in rapid-fire Italian, too fast for me to follow, but the tone is urgent, violent. When Dante turns back to me, his expression has transformed completely. The charming, curious man has evaporated. What's left is pure, distilled danger, a predator in an expensive suit. Change of plans, he says quietly. You're not doing the dinner. My heart sinks with relief and inexplicable disappointment. You're coming with me, right now. Pack a bag and don't tell anyone where you're going. My men will be at your apartment in 10 minutes. What? No, It wasn't a request, Alessia. His voice drops to something lethal. Your ex-boyfriend Marco Torino just made a very expensive mistake. One that's about to splash blood all over this city. And you? You just became collateral damage in a war you don't even know about. My blood turns to ice. How do you know Marco is... I know everything about everyone, Dante says. His gaze is already moving past me toward the back of the diner, toward the kitchen. Including the fact that you're about to become very, very important to my survival. The apartment is chaos when I burst through the door, throwing clothes into a worn duffel bag with trembling hands. 10 minutes. He gave me 10 minutes, and somehow I believe him. Believe that if I'm not ready, he'll come retrieve me himself. Marco emerges from the kitchen, his face pale. Alessia, listen. Don't. I hold up my hand, my voice shaking with anger and fear. Don't explain. Don't apologize. Just tell me what you did. He sinks onto the threadbare couch, running his hands through his hair. In the harsh apartment light, I can see him clearly for the first time in years. Really see him. The man I dated briefly 2 years ago before I realized he was charming and broken and dangerous in ways I couldn't articulate. The man I've been avoiding since, who became my boss only because I desperately needed the job. It was supposed to be simple, Marco whispers. A shipment. Some product moving through the Salvatore distribution network. I was going to intercept it, sell it to the Moretti family, make enough money to disappear. You stole from Dante Salvatore. I didn't know it was... You're lying. The words come out sharp. You knew exactly what you were doing. You just thought you could get away with it. The sound of car engines outside makes us both freeze. Heavy, expensive engines, multiple vehicles. Marco stands, panic flooding his features. You have to go. When they ask what you know, tell them nothing. Tell them we were already broken up, that you barely know me, that I'm innocent? I finish bitterly, zipping the duffel. Which I am, by the way. Thanks for that. There's a knock on the door. Not aggressive. Not yet. But there's something absolute about it. A summons that won't be denied. I open it to find 2 men in dark suits, their faces impassive and professional. One of them gestures toward the stairwell. Miss Alessia, Mr. Salvatore is waiting. I grab the duffel and turn back to Marco one last time. He's standing in the middle of my apartment like a ghost, already mourning himself. Whatever happens, I say quietly, I hope it was worth it. I don't wait for a response. The car is a black luxury sedan with tinted windows, and Dante is already inside. He's changed since the diner, removed his jacket, unbuttoned the top of his white dress shirt. There's a thin line of blood on his left knuckle, and his dark eyes are blazing with something that looks like fury and something else I can't name. Sit, he orders. I sit. The door closes behind me with a soft, final click. The driver pulls into traffic without waiting for instructions, navigating the rain-soaked streets with the certainty of someone who knows exactly where he's going. For several minutes, neither of us speaks. The silence is suffocating, electric with unspoken violence. Marco was skimming from a shipment, Dante finally says, not looking at me. His voice is controlled but carries an undercurrent of rage. 3 months, 5 different intercepts. He sold the merchandise to the Moretti organization and pocketed nearly $500,000. I didn't know, I whisper. I know. He finally turns to look at me, and his expression is almost gentle, which is somehow more terrifying than anger. If you had, you'd be dead right now instead of sitting next to me. The casual certainty in that statement steals my breath. Where are we going? Somewhere safe. He reaches down and adjusts something at his feet. A leather briefcase, battered and expensive looking. The Moretti family doesn't know who their inside man was, but they're about to figure it out. When they do, they'll want to eliminate the connection. You're the connection. But I didn't know. Yes, I'm aware. He pulls out his phone and makes a call, switching to rapid Italian. The conversation is brief and brutal. Something about Marco. Something about a location. Something about consequences. When he hangs up, he catches me staring at him. What? What are you going to do to him? That depends. Dante leans back against the seat, and I notice for the first time that he looks exhausted beneath the predatory control. On whether he cooperates with the authorities, whether he tries to flip on me or the Morettis, whether he values his life enough to understand the gravity of his mistake. And if he doesn't? Dante doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. The car pulls into an underground garage beneath what appears to be an upscale hotel in the financial district. We park in a private section, and Dante escorts me to an elevator that requires a keycard to access. As we rise, I catch our reflection in the polished steel doors. Him in his rumpled white shirt with blood on his knuckle, me in my diner uniform still smelling like coffee and desperation. We look like we belong to two different worlds, which we do. The penthouse suite is extraordinary. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the city, rain-slicked streets reflecting the glow of 1,000 lights. The furniture is modern and expensive, all clean lines and dark leather. But what strikes me most is how cold it feels. Not in temperature, but in atmosphere. This is a space designed for function, not for living. For control, not for comfort. You can use the bedroom on the left, Dante says, moving toward what appears to be a study. Stay inside the suite. There's a security detail outside your door. If you try to leave, they have instructions to stop you. Not gently. Am I a hostage? He pauses, his hand on the study door. Your protection. For both of us. That doesn't make sense. It will. He enters the study and closes the door behind him, leaving me alone in his penthouse with a view of the city and the growing certainty that my life has just split into a before and after, and there's no going back to before. I unpack my duffel in the bedroom, a space all whites and grays and carefully curated minimalism. Everything smells like expensive leather and something else, something uniquely his. I find myself burying my face in one of the pillows, breathing it in like I can extract answers from his scent. Hours pass. I pace the suite. I watch the rain. I try to sleep but can't. My phone buzzes with texts from friends asking where I am, if I'm okay. I don't respond because I genuinely don't know how to answer. I'm not okay. I'm possibly in danger. I'm in the penthouse of a mafia boss who apparently needs me for reasons he hasn't explained. Around 2 a.m., unable to stand the silence anymore, I emerge from the bedroom. The study door is open. Dante is still there, behind a mahogany desk, surrounded by papers and photographs. I glimpse one as I approach. Marco's face, and beneath it, a photo of another man I don't recognize, bloodied and bound. Dante looks up, unsurprised to see me. Can't sleep? Would you be able to sleep? A smile plays at his mouth. No. But I haven't slept properly in 7 years, so I'm probably not a good comparison. He sets down his pen and leans back in his chair, studying me. Come here. Every survival instinct screams at me not to. I move toward him anyway. When I reach the desk, he reaches out and gently takes my wrist. His touch is warm, and his thumb traces slow circles on the inside of my pulse point. It's almost tender, which makes it infinitely more unsettling than violence. Your heart is racing, he observes quietly, because you're terrifying. Yes, he doesn't deny it. But I won't hurt you, Alessia. As long as you stay with me, as long as you don't betray me, you're the safest person in this city. And if I want to leave? His grip tightens fractionally. Then you'll find out exactly how much worse things can get. It's not a threat. It's a promise. He releases my wrist and returns his attention to the papers on his desk, but not before I catch something in his expression. A flicker of genuine regret, as if he's disappointed by his own ruthlessness. There's a guest bedroom, he says without looking up. Use it. In the morning, we'll discuss what happens next. I turn to leave, but his voice stops me. Alessia. I pause at the doorway, my hand trembling on the frame. I meant what I said about keeping you safe. But understand this. He finally looks at me, and his dark eyes burn with something that might be desire, or might be possession, or might be both. You're mine now. The Moretti family will see you as leverage. My enemies will view you as a target. And my family will wonder who this woman is that I'd risk everything to protect. So you need to be very certain about what you're choosing, because once you're in this, there's no stepping out without consequences. My mouth is dry. My pulse is thunder in my ears. Then why did you bring me here? Because Marco made you a liability, and I don't leave liabilities. Walking around the city. He pauses, and when he speaks again, his voice is softer, rougher. And because when I saw you in that diner, something in my chest broke open, and I haven't felt that in so long that I forgot it was possible. The confession hangs between us like a live grenade. Before I can respond, before I can process what he's just admitted, there's a sharp knock on the penthouse door. Dante's expression hardens instantly, the vulnerability sealing shut like a door slamming closed. He stands and moves toward the entrance, hand disappearing into his jacket. Stay back, he calls to me, and I retreat into the hallway. When he opens the door, a woman stands in the frame, mid-50s, elegant, with Dante's dark eyes and sharp features. Behind her, I catch a glimpse of armed men in the corridor. Dante, she says, and her voice carries the weight of absolute authority. We need to talk about what happened with the Morettis. And who exactly is this woman doing in your penthouse at 2 a.m? My stomach drops. In Italian, that's too rapid for me to follow. A conversation explodes between them. Urgent, heated, loaded with implications I can't quite grasp. Dante's mother doesn't look impressed or intimidated. She looks like a woman who has spent decades wielding power and has no intention of stopping now. When she turns and looks directly at me, her expression shifts to something calculating and dangerous. So, she says in accented English, stepping fully into the penthouse, you're the reason my son is about to start a war. Dante steps between his mother and me in one fluid motion, his body language screaming possession and protection. Madre, this is Alessia. She's not involved in the Moretti situation. Then why is she here? His mother removes her coat with deliberate slowness, handing it to one of her men. She's stunning in an intimidating way, tall, impeccably dressed, with silver-streaked hair styled in a severe bob. Everything about her radiates power earned through decades of navigating a violent underworld. And why are you defending her before I've even asked a question? Dante's jaw clenches. She's under my protection. Because? His mother moves further into the penthouse like she owns it, like she owns him. Maybe she does. She settles onto the sofa with the ease of someone accustomed to having her presence commanded respect. Sit, Alessia. Let's talk, shall we? I don't move. Dante gives me a subtle nod, and I sit on the chair across from his mother, hyper-aware of how exposed I feel in my diner uniform while she's draped in luxury and authority. Tell me about yourself, she begins, and it's presented as a casual request, but it's clearly an interrogation. There's not much to tell. I'm 28. I work as a server. I live in a small apartment in the city. And you know Marco Torino? I dated him briefly, 2 years ago. Since then, he's been my boss. His mother's eyes narrow. How fortunate for him that he had access to you every day. How did he recruit you? He didn't. I don't know anything about his business dealings. Yet Dante believes you're important enough to hide in his penthouse. She leans forward slightly. My son is many things. Ruthless, intelligent, dangerous. But he's never been impulsive. Not even as a teenager. So explain to me why he would risk the Salvatore reputation on someone he met for approximately 2 minutes in a diner. The question hangs in the air like a blade. Dante speaks before I can. Because she's innocent, and the Morettis need to understand that they've miscalculated. The Morettis need to understand that we're prepared to burn this city down if necessary, his mother counters coldly. They've made their move. We respond with violence. Keeping her here doesn't accomplish anything except making her a target. Which is why she stays, Dante says, and there's something final in his tone. Unless you're questioning my authority over the Salvatore operations, the power struggle between them is palpable, electric with the weight of history and hierarchy. Dante's mother studies him for a long moment, and I see something shift in her expression. Not acceptance, but a reluctant acknowledgement. You're making a mistake, she says quietly. But they're your mistakes to make. She turns her attention back to me. Tell me, Alessia, do you understand what you've stumbled into? No, I answer honestly. I don't. The Salvatore family controls the majority of organized crime in this region. We have interests in gambling, distribution, money laundering, real estate development. We have people in the police department, in the mayor's office, in the judicial system. We have resources and reach that most governments would envy. She pauses, letting the weight of that settle. We also have enemies, the Moretti family being primary among them. Your ex-boyfriend has just handed those enemies leverage in the form of you. I can't help you, I say, and my voice is surprisingly steady. I don't know anything. No, you don't. She stands, collecting her coat from her man. Which is the only reason you're still alive. But understand this, girl. If you betray my son, if you provide information to the Morettis or the authorities, I will personally ensure that your death is slow and educational. Do you understand? Yes. Good. She moves toward the door, then pauses. Dante, we need to discuss our response. The Morettis have already made inquiries about the shipment. They'll move against us within 72 hours. We need to be prepared. After she leaves, silence settles over the penthouse like snow. Dante stands by the window, looking out at the rain-soaked city, his shoulders rigid with tension. I'm sorry, I say quietly. For what? For bringing danger into your life. He turns to look at me, and there's something raw in his expression. You didn't bring anything, Alessia. The danger was already here. You just made me want to do something about it. He crosses the space between us and extends his hand. Without thinking, I take it. He pulls me to my feet and into the study, closing the door behind us. The room smells like him. Leather and tobacco and something darker. Something expensive. I need to explain something, he says, and his voice has lost its commanding edge, become almost vulnerable. My mother was right about one thing. I don't do impulsive. I don't take risks. Not with my organization, not with my position. Everything I do is calculated, controlled. But with me, with you, he confirms, running his thumb across my knuckles. Every instinct I have screams that I should be logical, that I should use you as leverage with the Moretti family, that I should keep you as a bargaining chip, that I should maintain the distance required to be an effective leader. He lifts my hand to his mouth and presses a kiss to my palm. And I can't. I look at you. And all of that training, all of that discipline, burns away like paper. That's dangerous, I whisper, catastrophically. He releases my hand and moves away, creating space between us. Which is why I need you to understand the reality of this situation. Marco's theft has destabilized the balance of power in the city. The Moretti family sees an opportunity. My mother sees a necessity for preemptive violence. And He pauses, his dark eyes burning into mine. I see a woman I just met, and would burn this entire city to keep safe, which makes me a liability to everyone around me. Then let me go. I can't. Why not? Because. He moves closer, and his hand comes up to cut my face. Because you're the first real thing I've felt in 7 years, and I'm not strong enough to walk away from that. He kisses me. It's not gentle or careful or controlled. It's desperate and hungry and flavored with all the danger and darkness that clings to him. His hand slides into my hair, pulling me closer, and I'm drowning in him, in the taste of him, in the heat of him, in the absolute certainty that this is a mistake I'm making with my eyes wide open. When we break apart, we're both breathing hard. This doesn't change what I am, he says quietly. This doesn't make me safe. This doesn't give you an exit. I know. And you're staying anyway? I should say no. Every rational part of me screams that I should say no and demand he let me go and run as far from this man and his world as possible. But instead, I answer, yes. Something flickers across his face, satisfaction, relief, and something darker. Possession. Before either of us can speak again, his phone rings. He answers, listening to whoever is on the other end. His expression hardens progressively, shifting from dark to something approaching violent. How many? He demands. A pause. Location? Another pause. Call the cleaners and double the guards on the penthouse. No one gets in without biometric verification. He hangs up and immediately moves to the window, looking out at the city. What happened? I ask, though part of me already knows the answer. Marco didn't cooperate, Dante says quietly. The Morettis found him in his apartment about 20 minutes ago. He's dead, along with everyone else in the building who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. My breath catches. Marco was dangerous and foolish and reckless, but he was still a person, still someone I knew. The Morettis are sending a message, Dante continues. And the message is that they're willing to kill indiscriminately to prove their point, which means... The power suddenly cuts out. The penthouse plunges into darkness, and emergency lights flicker on, casting everything in a sickly red glow. Dante immediately moves to the window, pulls me away from it, and pushes me toward the study door. What's happening? I demand. Assassination attempt, he says, his voice suddenly all business, all lethal calm. They've cut the power to disable the security system. Stay behind me. Do not leave my side under any circumstances. Do you understand? Yes. Gunfire erupts from somewhere below, sharp cracks that echo up through the building. Dante pulls a gun from beneath his desk and checks the chamber with practiced efficiency. This is what you signed up for, he says, and he's not being cruel, just truthful. This is what happens when you're with me. The gunfire grows louder, closer. The penthouse has transformed into a war zone. Dante moves through the space with lethal grace, positioning me behind reinforced furniture and away from windows. Through the emergency lighting and the darkness, I can hear the chaos. Shouts in Italian, the rapid percussion of automatic weapons, the shattering of glass as bullets punch through the air. There's a safe room, Dante says, pulling me toward what appears to be a closet. He enters a code on a hidden keypad, and a section of wall slides open, revealing a corridor. Move. Now. What about you? I'm not finished here. He pushes me toward the opening. My security team is neutralizing the threat. But I need to know you're protected. I'm not leaving you. You're not given a choice. He guides me into the corridor and closes the wall behind me with a final mechanical click. I'm standing in a dimly lit passage, alone. The sound of gunfire is muffled but still audible, a constant reminder of the violence occurring on the other side of the wall. My hands are shaking. My heart is a frantic bird trying to escape my ribs. The safe room extends deeper into the building, climate-controlled and stocked with supplies. Water, canned food, first aid, a satellite phone, and a high-definition screen showing security camera feeds from every angle of the penthouse. I watch. On the screen, Dante moves through the main living area like death itself has taken human form. He fires with mechanical precision, and men in tactical gear drop. His men, members of the Salvatore organization, I assume, are moving in coordination with military discipline. It's a dance they've clearly performed before. One of the intruders makes it closer than expected. A man with a scar across his throat and fire in his eyes lunges for Dante, a knife raised. For a moment, just a moment, I see Dante's control waver. The intruder gets close enough to draw blood, and I feel it like a physical blow. Then Dante recovers. He disarms the man with brutal efficiency and, in one final movement that I can't quite follow on the screen, eliminates the threat. The scarred man falls. It takes 18 minutes for the penthouse to fall silent. I'm still staring at the screens when the wall opens. Dante stands in the doorway, breathing hard. His white dress shirt is torn and bloodied, and there's a thin line of blood running from his temple to his jaw. He's still holding the gun. "It's done," he says. I launch myself at him before he can say anything else, wrapping my arms around him and burying my face in his chest. He's warm and real and alive, and I'm terrified that if I let go, he might disappear into smoke and shadow and leave me alone in this nightmare. "You're bleeding," I whisper. Superficial. But he sets down his weapon and wraps his arms around me, pulling me closer. His hand tangles in my hair, and for a moment, he simply holds me. "The safe room. You did what I told you." "Of course I did." "Good." He pulls back enough to look at me. "Because that's what survival means, Alessia. Doing what I tell you when it matters. No questions, no hesitation." "Who are they?" "Moretti contract killers. Professionals." He releases me and moves to a first aid kit mounted on the wall, beginning to clean the blood from his face. They were good. Most organizations would have lost the penthouse and everyone in it. But you didn't. No. He meets my eyes in the mirror above the sink. Because I've been preparing for this my entire life. Because I learned long ago that the only way to survive in this business is to always be ready to war. He finishes cleaning his wounds and, after changing into a fresh shirt and pulling on a suit jacket, leads me back out into the penthouse. The mess is being rapidly cleaned by what appear to be professional crews, people moving with the efficiency of those who've done this countless times before. The bodies are gone. The glass is already being replaced. By morning, there will be no evidence that a battle was fought here. "You should rest," Dante says. "We have a long day ahead of us." "What happens now?" "Now?" He guides me toward the bedroom. "Now we go to war with the Moretti family, and we use them understanding my weakness against me." I stop walking. "What do you mean?" "They know that you matter to me. That's an advantage I've never given anyone before, so I'm going to leverage that." He opens the bedroom door and gestures for me to enter. "Tomorrow, we're going to make a very public appearance together. You're going to be seen, photographed, documented as the woman I've chosen. The Morettis will take that as a sign that I'm distracted, compromised. They'll make their move, and when they do, we'll be waiting. You're using me. Yes. He doesn't deny it. But I'm also protecting you. Both things can be true. I lie in the guest bedroom, unable to sleep despite the exhaustion pulling at me. The sound of gunfire still echoes in my ears. The image of Dante covered in blood is burned into my mind. I keep replaying the moment when the scarred man got close, when I thought I was about to watch the man I barely know, the man I shouldn't care about, die in front of me. And the terrifying realization is that I would have rather died myself. Around dawn, I emerge from the bedroom to find Dante in the study, dark and exhausted but still working. Papers cover the desk. Maps of the city are marked with notes and circles. He's planning something large-scale. Couldn't sleep? He asks without looking up. Could you? I don't need much sleep. He finally looks at me. And there's a war to plan. Tell me what we're doing. He sets down his pen and leans back in his chair, studying me. We're going to move against the Moretti family before they can regroup. We're going to destroy their supply chain, their financial networks, their people. We're going to make it clear that anyone who touches you pays with their life and their legacy. That sounds like a lot of bloodshed. It is. He doesn't apologize. This is the cost of being in my world. This is what it takes to survive. And after? After the Morettis are eliminated or neutralized or whatever you're planning? He stands and moves around the desk, pulling me close. After Alessia, you'll be the one thing in my life that's untouchable, the one thing that's mine to protect, the one thing worth every drop of blood spilled in the streets. He kisses me then, and it's different from before. It's not desperate or hungry. It's possessive and definitive, a claiming that goes beyond physical attraction. I'm going to be honest with you, he says against my mouth. Because you deserve that much. I'm going to hurt people in the coming weeks. I'm going to make decisions that will haunt you if you let them. I'm going to be the villain in 1,000 stories. But I'm never, ever going to hurt you. That's not a promise I'll break. And if I want to leave? After this is all over? He pulls back enough to look into my eyes. Then I'll let you walk away, fully aware that losing you would be worse than any violence the Morettis could inflict. The confession hangs between us. Raw, real, dangerous in its vulnerability. A phone call interrupts the moment. Dante answers, his expression hardening as he listens. When he hangs up, he's already moving toward the bedroom. Pack a bag. We're leaving the penthouse. The Morettis know this location, which means it's compromised. My mother is moving us to one of the family estates outside the city. Secure, fortified, and completely off the grid. How long? Until this is finished. He emerges with a packed duffel of his own. Grab what you need. A car is waiting downstairs. We move in 5 minutes. As I throw clothes into a bag with shaking hands, I realize something has shifted fundamentally inside me. I came here as a hostage, a bargaining chip, a woman caught in circumstances beyond her control. But somewhere between the gunfire and the blood and the confession of feelings neither of us should be having, I've transformed into something else. I'm becoming complicit. I'm becoming willing. I'm becoming his. The Salvatore estate sprawls across 50 acres of private land, hidden behind iron gates and ringed with armed security. The main house is a sprawling stone mansion that looks like it was transplanted from the Italian countryside, all terracotta roof tiles and heavy wooden doors and windows that could withstand a siege. It's beautiful in an ominous way. Welcome to the fortress, Dante says as we pull through the gates. His hand is resting on my thigh, a casual gesture that somehow feels more intimate than the kisses we've shared. The car stops at the main entrance. Dante's men are waiting, along with several women I assume are house staff. And standing in the doorway, perfectly composed despite the chaos that's descended on their family, is his mother. The War Council will convene tonight, she announces as we exit the car. We have intelligence on the Moretti distribution network. 3 major shipments are in transit. 3 opportunities to strike simultaneously and cripple their operations. She looks at me with cool appraisal. Alessia, you'll be staying in the East Wing. There are guards posted. Meals are served in your rooms unless you're invited to dine with the family. She stays with me, Dante says before I can respond. His mother's eyebrow arches. That's not appropriate. She's not married to you. Not yet. He takes my hand, and the possessive gesture is unmistakable. But she will be. The words hang in the air like a grenade. His mother's expression shifts through several emotions before settling on something that looks like grim acceptance. You're making decisions with your heart instead of your head. For the first time in my life, Dante agrees. And I'm not interested in changing that. The master suite is enormous, all dark woods and heavy fabrics and windows that overlook manicured gardens and armed guards. It's beautiful and suffocating in equal measure. Are you insane? I demand once we're alone. Did you just tell your mother you're going to marry me? Yes. He removes his suit jacket and pulls off his tie with economical movements. Does that bother you? Of course it bothers me. We've known each other for less than 24 hours. You kidnapped me. You're in a war with another crime family. This is insane. He approaches me slowly, and I stand my ground, anger overriding fear. Look at me, he commands quietly. I do. I'm 42 years old, he says. I've run the Salvatore family for 17 years. I've ordered more deaths than I can count. I've built a criminal empire that spans 3 countries. And in all of that time, nothing, not power, not money, not respect, nothing has made me feel even remotely human. Until I saw you in that diner. He takes my face in his hands, his thumbs brushing across my cheekbones. I'm not asking you to marry me because of impulse or tradition, or any reason a normal man would propose. I'm asking because you're the only thing in my world that isn't corrupted by blood and violence. You're the only thing that's real. And I'm selfish enough and ruthless enough to do whatever it takes to keep you. That's not love, I whisper. That's obsession. Maybe. He leans his forehead against mine. But it's the most honest thing I've ever felt. So you can marry me, or you can run. But understand that I'm going to find you either way. I'm going to make you mine, either way. The only variable is whether you come willingly. He steps back, giving me space, and I'm left standing alone with the weight of his confession and the terrifying realization that I want to say yes. I'm taking a shower, he says, moving toward the bathroom. Join me if you want. Or don't. But decide quickly, Alessia, because my patience for waiting is not infinite. I listen to the water start, and I realize I'm trembling, not from fear, but from desire and the complete chaos of my own emotions. 24 hours ago, I was serving coffee in a diner. Now, I'm in a fortress, being proposed to by a mafia boss, standing at a crossroads between safety and damnation. I walk into the bathroom. Steam rises from the massive shower, fogging the glass. Dante is visible through the haze, all muscle and scar tissue and lethal beauty. When he sees me enter, he doesn't smile. He simply extends his hand. I undress with shaking hands and step into the shower. The water is hot, and his body is hotter, and when he pulls me against him, I feel less like I'm drowning and more like I'm finally learning to swim. His hands are gentle as he washes me, traveling across my skin with reverence that contradicts everything violent about him. He's careful with my body in a way that makes me believe, for the first time, that his promises might be real. I need you to understand something, he says, his lips against my shoulder. This war with the Morettis, it's going to get worse before it gets better. People are going to die. Innocent people, probably. And I won't shield you from that reality because you deserve to know what you're choosing. I know. Do you? He turns me to face him. Because there's a difference between knowing intellectually and understanding in your bones what this world actually costs. Then show me. I look directly into his eyes. Show me everything. Make me understand. He kisses me then, and it's both a confession and a curse. His hands move across my body with increasing intensity, and mine do the same. The shower fills with steam and the sounds of breath and water, and the two of us coming together in a way that feels both inevitable and terrifying. When we exit the shower, wrapped in towels, the sun is setting beyond the windows. Dante wraps me in a robe and guides me to the bedroom, where he dresses in dark trousers and a black shirt. The uniform of a man about to wage war. "The council is starting," he says. "You should rest." "Can I watch?" He considers this, then nods. "You should understand what you're marrying into." The war room is in the basement of the estate, a situation room that looks like it belongs in a military installation. Maps, surveillance photos, communications equipment, and approximately 15 members of the Salvatore organization are present. Dante's mother is already there, along with men I recognize from the penthouse and several I don't. They all straighten when Dante enters, and I realize with a start that they're afraid of him. Not respectfully aware, but genuinely afraid. The Morettis have 3 shipments in transit. His mother begins, pulling up a digital map. Cocaine out of Miami, weapons from Montreal, and cash from Boston. If we intercept all 3 simultaneously, we cripple their operations for months, maybe permanently. A man with a scarred face, different from the one killed at the penthouse, steps forward. "Our supply chain is compromised as well. They have people inside our distribution network. We need to conduct purges." "Already handled," Dante says coldly. 3 people have been identified and eliminated. The rest are reliable. I feel my stomach turn at the casual way he discusses murder. "What about the girl?" someone asks, looking at me. "She's a liability." "No." Dante's voice drops to something lethal. "She's not. And if anyone here questions that decision, I suggest you leave this room before I make you leave it." Silence. Absolute, suffocating silence. The discussion continues for hours. Military precision applied to criminal enterprise, logistics of violence, optimization of bloodshed. And I stand in the corner, watching the man I've somehow fallen for coordinate the destruction of another organization with all the calculation of a chess player. It's terrible and magnificent and utterly terrifying. As the meeting concludes and the men file out, Dante's mother approaches me. Up close, I can see the resemblance between them more clearly. The same sharp cheekbones, the same dark eyes, the same lethal intelligence. "You think you love him," she says quietly. "I'm not sure I know him well enough to love him." A hint of a smile touches her lips. "Smart. My son is dangerous, Alessia. Not in the way men usually are. He's dangerous because he's capable of genuine feeling, and those feelings will consume him. If you marry him, understand that you'll be his obsession, his purpose, the thing he'd burn the world for. Is that a warning?" "It's a statement of fact." She looks out at the war room being cleared. "My husband was exactly like Dante, brilliant, ruthless, absolutely committed to his organization. And then I had a son, and suddenly everything changed. He wasn't willing to take risks anymore. He made mistakes. And eventually, someone exploited that weakness and killed him." She turns back to me. "I'm telling you this because I'm going to let my son marry you, which is something I would never do if I didn't believe you understood the stakes. You break his heart, you betray him, you prove yourself to be a weakness, and I will personally ensure your death is artistic." "I understand." "Good." She moves away, then pauses. "Welcome to the family, Alessia. I hope you survive it." That night, I lie beside Dante in the dark. He's asleep, or pretending to be, and I'm staring at the ceiling trying to comprehend the last 24 hours. How I went from obscurity to this. How I'm lying in a mafia boss's bed in a fortified estate on the eve of a full-scale war. Around 3 a.m. his phone rings. He answers immediately, already awake. The conversation is brief and in Italian, but I catch the words Moretti and movement and now. He hangs up and looks at me with an expression that's all business. "It's starting," he says. "The Morettis are moving against us. By sunrise, this war will be real." The estate becomes a command center overnight. Men are stationed at every entrance. Vehicles are moving in and out with military precision. Dante is everywhere at once, on calls, in meetings, coordinating operations across the city. I watch him transform before my eyes from the vulnerable man who held me in the shower to the absolute ruthless leader of an international crime organization. It's both horrifying and magnetic. Around dawn, after 16 hours of non-stop operations, Dante finally retreats to the master suite. He's covered in blood that isn't his, at least, I don't think it is, and his eyes are hollow with exhaustion and something darker. Something that looks like the weight of decisions he's made. "The first shipment was intercepted," he says, collapsing into a chair. 3 tons of cocaine, worth approximately 40 million on the street. The drivers were killed before they could notify the Moretti hierarchy. I don't ask how I know. That means the drivers were murdered in cold blood. I don't ask how many bodies are piling up because of this war. I don't ask anything because I already know the answers, and the questions don't matter anymore. "You should rest," I say instead. "I can't." He pulls me into his lap, burying his face in my hair. Every time I close my eyes, I see the bodies, the families that will be destroyed because of the people we killed, the collateral damage that's mounting every hour. "Then don't close your eyes." He pulls back enough to look at me. "I need to confess something." "Okay?" "The reason I brought you here. The real reason." He takes a shaky breath. "It wasn't just about protecting you from the Morettis. It was about protecting me from myself." "What do you mean?" He stands and moves to the window, looking out at the armed guards patrolling the grounds. 7 years ago, I made a decision that I've been living with ever since. A decision that cost lives but secured the Salvatore family's position. It was the right decision from a business perspective. It was also the most morally destructive thing I've ever done. "Tell me." "I ordered the execution of an informant," he says quietly. "A man who worked for us and was cooperating with the FBI. Standard procedure. The problem was that he was cooperating because they had his family. They threatened to take his children away if he didn't help them build a case against the Salvatore organization." He turns back to look at me. "I executed him anyway, and then I made sure his family was eliminated as well, because dead witnesses can't testify." The words land like stones in still water. "They killed his children?" I whisper. "We did." He doesn't say I did. He says we, and in that single word is an acknowledgement of collective guilt and personal accountability. 2 children, ages 4 and 7, and I've lived with that decision every single day since. I should feel sick. I should feel horrified. Some part of me does. But another part understands that he's trusting me with a confession that could destroy him if it became known. He's giving me power over his empire with a single statement. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you need to understand who I really am. Not the man who protects you, not the man who holds you in the dark, but the man capable of ordering children executed to protect his organization." He approaches me slowly. "And you need to decide right now if you can live with that. Because if you can't, I'll have you released. Fully. Safely. No strings. No leverage. You'll walk away from all of this." I'm standing in the morning light, looking at a man who's just confessed to ordering infanticide, and I'm trying to understand why I'm not running, why I'm not screaming, why I'm instead moving toward him and wrapping my arms around him. I'm not going anywhere, I say quietly. He holds me like I'm the only solid thing in a world that's spinning out of control. And maybe I am. Maybe in his world of blood and shadow and terrible decisions, I'm the only thing that remains untouched. The only thing he hasn't corrupted. The second Moretti shipment is being intercepted as we speak, he says against my hair. The weapons shipment. After that, we move against their main distribution hub. It's in a warehouse on the east side of the city. The operation will take place tonight. What does that mean? It means that by tomorrow morning, the Moretti family will either be destroyed or forced into negotiation. He pulls back to look at me. It means this war is reaching its climax. There's a knock on the door. One of Dante's men enters without waiting for permission, which tells me something significant has happened. We have a problem, the man says. He's young, early 20s, with the intense eyes of someone who's seen things he shouldn't have. The FBI has made contact with our operation. They want to negotiate. Dante's entire body goes rigid. What kind of negotiation? They have evidence of the Moretti operation, enough to bring down their entire organization. They're offering to share that intelligence if we assist in a sting operation. Assisting how? Dante asks, though I can already see where this is going. They want you to meet with the Moretti family leadership, to negotiate, and they want it wired. They want testimony that will hold up in court. Dante is silent for a long moment. Then he laughs, a harsh, humorless sound. They want me to betray my criminal organization to federal authorities in exchange for destroying a rival organization? He shakes his head. Tell them no. There's more. The man shifts uncomfortably. They have leverage, Alessia's brother. He was arrested last week on drug charges. Minor offense, but they're holding him. They'll release him if we cooperate. I feel the floor tilt beneath me. I don't have a brother, I say. You do, Dante says quietly. Or you think you don't. Let me guess. You were told he died when you were a child? How did you know? Because I had you investigated before I brought you here. He doesn't sound guilty or apologetic. I needed to understand who you were, what leverage could be used against you. I found evidence of a brother, Luca. He's 24. He survived your parents' death when you were told they both died, and the rest of your family placed him in a facility for his own protection. He's been alive all these years. The FBI found him and has been using him as insurance. The room is spinning. Everything I know about my past is suddenly questionable. My parents died in an accident when I was 12, I say, testing the words, suddenly unsure if they're true. Car crash. It wasn't an accident. Dante's voice is gentle, which somehow makes it worse. Your parents were killed because they were going to cooperate with federal authorities in an investigation into organized crime. Your father worked in logistics. He handled shipments for multiple organizations, including the Salvatore family. He knew too much, and he was going to testify. No, I whisper. Yes. Dante moves to me and takes my hands. You were placed in foster care after that. The Salvatore family ensured you were kept away from any investigation, that you lived a quiet life, that you never questioned what happened. But your brother, Luca, couldn't adapt to life in the normal world. He spent the last 16 years in various psychiatric facilities dealing with trauma. This is a lie. It's not. He looks directly into my eyes. And the FBI knows all of this. They know that you're connected to your parents' death. They know that you might have questions about the Salvatore family's role in that death. And they're using your brother as leverage to turn you against me. The implications are staggering. Did the Salvatore family kill my parents? The pause that follows is answer enough. My father made that decision. Dante says quietly. 17 years ago, before I took control of the organization, it was business, necessary, and you were protected because of it. You got to live a normal life, instead of being eliminated as a potential witness. I pull my hands away from him and step back. The room is tilting. My vision is fragmenting at the edges. Everything since I met you has been a lie, I say. This entire situation has been engineered. You knew who I was. You knew my history. You used my connection to the diner, to Marco, to pull me in. That's not true, isn't it? I'm backing away from him. How convenient that I happen to work at exactly the diner you chose to enter. How coincidental that the man who could compromise your organization, Marco, happened to be someone I knew. How perfectly orchestrated that I would be vulnerable and desperate enough to say yes to your $50,000 proposal. I didn't... Stop. I hold up my hand. I need to think. I need to understand what's real and what's been manufactured. I move toward the door, but Dante blocks my path. You're not leaving. Watch me. Alessia. That's not even my real life, is it? Alessia. My name. How much of my identity has been a construction? Your name is real. Your feelings are real. What you and I have, that's the only real thing in this entire situation. How am I supposed to believe that? I demand. How am I supposed to trust anything you've told me when you've clearly been orchestrating events from the beginning? Because I'm telling you the truth now, because I'm admitting that I brought you here knowing who you were, knowing your history, and because it doesn't change the fact that when I saw you in that diner, I felt something break open inside me. That was real, Alessia. That feeling was real. Behind us, the man who delivered the message is still standing in the doorway, witnessing this entire breakdown. Dante raises his hand without looking at him, and the man quickly retreats. The FBI contact wants an answer by tonight, Dante says once we're alone again. If we don't cooperate, they're going to release information about your family to the media. They're going to expose your brother to the world, expose your parents' death as a Salvatore execution, and they're going to make sure that every journalist in the city knows that you're connected to a dead informant's family. Why are you telling me this? Because you have a choice to make. He moves closer, and I don't move away, even though I want to. You can leave. You can walk away from all of this. You can contact the FBI, turn state's evidence against me, against my family, against the entire Salvatore organization. You can destroy me. And my brother? Will be released regardless. That's guaranteed in my negotiations with the FBI. Your brother walks free and gets the psychiatric care he actually needs. But you... He takes my face in his hands. You'll never be safe. The Salvatore family will spend the rest of our lives hunting you. Every day we'll be looking over your shoulder. Every night we'll be wondering if today is the day we find you. And if I stay? If you stay, your brother is protected. The Salvatore family brings him into the fold. We ensure he gets the best care, the best future. And you? He leans his forehead against mine. You'll be my wife. My consort. The woman I've destroyed my entire moral compass to have. That's not a choice, I whisper. That's a threat disguised as love. Yes, he acknowledges, but it's an honest threat. And in my world, honesty is the rarest currency. I spend the next 12 hours in the master suite, alone. Dante has given me space, which I'm grateful for and resentful of in equal measure. I pace the room, replay every conversation we've had, every touch, every confession. I try to separate what might be genuine from what's clearly been manipulation. The problem is, I can't. The two are so thoroughly intertwined that untangling them feels impossible. Around 2 p.m. a woman arrives, someone Dante has clearly arranged. She's older, maybe 60, with kind eyes and the bearing of someone who's lived a complicated life. I'm Sister Catherine, she introduces herself, Dante asked me to speak with you. Is he bringing in a priest now? For last rites before he kills me? A slight smile touches her lips. May I sit? I gesture to the sofa, and she settles there with the ease of someone who's had difficult conversations in hard circumstances. Dante brought me into the Salvatore organization when I had nowhere else to go, she begins. I was a nun for 30 years, left the order because I couldn't reconcile the church's teachings with reality anymore. Dante found me living on the streets and gave me a position within his organization. I counsel his people. I help process the trauma of the things we do. So you're a priest for organized crime? Something like that. She folds her hands in her lap. I'm here because Dante wants you to understand something important. The man who ordered your parents' death was Dante's father. The man Dante replaced. The man whose legacy he's spent the last 17 years dismantling. By continuing to do exactly what his father did. No. Sister Catherine's voice is gentle but firm. By changing the structure of the organization. By protecting people instead of sacrificing them. By building a different kind of power, one based on loyalty and respect, instead of fear. That's a nice narrative, I say bitterly. It doesn't change the fact that he still kills people, that he's still a criminal, that everything between us is built on lies and manipulation. All true, Sister Catherine agrees, but consider this. Dante has spent 17 years making decisions that haunt him. Decisions that he can't undo, no matter how much he might want to. And then, he met you. And for the first time since he took control, he wanted something other than power. He wanted redemption. By manipulating me? By protecting you, she corrects gently. Yes, he brought you here knowing your history. Yes, his initial motivation was complicated and strategic, but somewhere along the way, the strategy became secondary to the man, and now he's at a crossroads. Just as you are. What crossroads? The FBI is offering him a choice, Sister Catherine explains. They want him to testify against the Moretti family. In exchange, they'll offer him immunity for a series of crimes committed during the period when his father was in control. But he's refused. Do you know why? I assume because he's a criminal and criminals don't cooperate with authorities. No. Sister Catherine stands. He's refused because testifying would require him to expose information about your parents' death. It would require him to detail his father's decision to execute them. And he knows that knowing those details would destroy the fragile trust he's built with you. So he's choosing you over immunity. He's choosing to remain vulnerable to federal prosecution to protect you from the truth of your parents' murder. She moves toward the door, then pauses. I'm not here to convince you to stay with Dante. That's your decision to make. But I'm here to tell you that the man I've watched transform over these 17 years is worth fighting for. And I think you know that. I think you've known that since the moment he walked into that diner. After she leaves, I sit in silence. Around 6 p.m. Dante enters without knocking. He looks like he hasn't slept in days. He's wearing all black. Appropriate, I think, for a man about to wage war on multiple fronts. The Moretti distribution hub is being hit in 4 hours, he says without preamble. After that, I'm meeting with the FBI to hear their proposal. Sister Catherine told me she spoke with you. Yes? Do you believe her? I don't know what to believe anymore. He sits on the bed and pulls me toward him. I don't resist, but I also don't relax into his embrace the way I have before. I'm going to tell you something, he says quietly, and I want you to listen without interrupting. Can you do that? I nod. My father was a brutal man, brilliant, powerful, completely without conscience. When I was 16, he began training me to eventually take over the organization. He showed me how to make decisions that would save the family but destroy individuals. He taught me that emotions were weaknesses to be eliminated. He taught me that love was the most dangerous liability a person could have. Dante's voice is steady, but I can feel the tremor beneath it. When I was 25, he ordered the execution of your parents. You were 12 years old. And he brought me into the decision-making process specifically to teach me that family doesn't matter, that sentiment doesn't matter, that only power matters. He made me watch the execution. He made me understand that this is what leadership requires. Dante, let me finish. He pulls back to look at me. That decision broke something in me. Not because I suddenly developed a moral compass, but because I realized that if I continued on the path my father was showing me, I would eventually lose my ability to feel anything at all. I would become exactly like him, a force of nature with no humanity left. He takes my face in his hands. So I spent the next 17 years dismantling the structures he built. I protected people instead of executing them. I built loyalty through respect instead of fear. And I started having moments where I felt things again. Small things, brief moments. But they gave me hope that I wasn't completely lost. And then I showed up. And then you showed up, he confirms. And suddenly those brief moments became constant. Suddenly I was feeling everything. Fear, desire, hope, regret. And I realized that I was finally becoming human again. By manipulating me? By bringing you into my world, he corrects. Knowing that you would either destroy me or save me. Willing to accept either outcome because the alternative was continuing to exist as a shell of a person. I should be angry. I should demand that he let me go, that he release me, that he accept that what we have is fundamentally broken. But instead, I'm crying, and he's holding me, and neither of us is letting go. The Moretti distribution hub is burning as we speak, he says quietly. In an hour, the FBI will have enough evidence to prosecute the entire Moretti family. In 2 hours, this war will be effectively over, and I'll have a choice to make. What choice? Between you and my organization. He pulls back to look at me. The FBI wants me to cooperate fully. They want me to testify about my father's crimes, about the decisions I've made since taking over. In exchange, they're offering immunity. But acceptance would mean the end of the Salvatore family as it currently exists. It would mean dismantling everything I've built. And if you don't cooperate? Then I remain a liability. Then every prosecutor in the city will be looking for ways to bring me down. Then I spend the rest of my life in a position where I can be used against you. He stands and moves toward the window. Sister Catherine told you I've refused to cooperate because of you. She's right. I've been trying to protect you from the details of your parents' death. But you deserve to know the truth. I don't know if I can handle the truth. I know. He doesn't turn around. But you're going to get it anyway, because I'm going to cooperate with the FBI. I'm going to testify against my organization. I'm going to dismantle the Salvatore family, and I'm going to do it all because the alternative is a life spent with you while looking over our shoulders, always knowing that my organization's crimes could destroy you. Dante, I'm choosing you, he says, and his voice is final. Over power, over legacy, over everything I've spent 17 years building. I'm choosing you, Alessia. And I need you to understand that this choice is irreversible. He finally turns to face me, and in his dark eyes, I see something I haven't seen before. Not predation, not manipulation, but genuine, devastating love. Will you marry me? He asks, knowing who I am, knowing what I've done, knowing that choosing me means living with the weight of my crimes? Yes, I whisper. God help me. Yes. The courthouse is surrounded by federal agents and media. Dante stands in a black suit, looking like a man walking toward execution, and in a way, he is. The testimony he's about to give will dismantle 17 years of careful construction. It will expose secrets that people have killed to protect, and it will change everything. His mother is not present. She's been kept away from the federal building, isolated within the Salvatore infrastructure, mourning the son she's about to lose. His lawyers tried to stop him from testifying. His men begged him to fight. But he's made his choice, and now he's living with it. I'm sitting in the courtroom gallery, watching him take the stand. He looks at me once. Just once. And in that look, I see the weight of what he's doing. He's not doing this for justice or morality or because he's suddenly developed a conscience. He's doing this because he's choosing me over everything else, and that choice is destroying him. The prosecutor stands. Mr. Salvatore, you've been operating the Salvatore criminal organization for the past 17 years. During that time, you've ordered multiple murders, overseen large-scale drug distribution, managed money laundering operations, and coordinated violence across multiple jurisdictions. Is that accurate? Yes, Dante says simply. And you're testifying today against your own organization? I am. Why? Dante's eyes find me again. Because I realized that power without humanity is just violence with a better organizational structure. And because I met someone who showed me that there's a possibility of becoming something other than what my family raised me to be. The prosecutor continues with questions about specific crimes, specific dates, specific decisions. Dante answers each one with brutal honesty. He describes murders he's ordered. He details drug operations. He walks through money laundering schemes. And with each answer, he's systematically dismantling the Salvatore family's legal protections. Then the defense attorney stands for cross-examination. Mr. Salvatore, you're testifying against your own organization in exchange for immunity. Isn't it possible that your motivation is simply self-preservation? I'm not seeking immunity, Dante says. I'm accepting it as part of the agreement, but I'm also signing documents that will hold me accountable for crimes committed after my father's death. I'm not trying to escape consequences. I'm trying to mitigate damage. And this decision, to testify, to dismantle your organization, this was made because of a romantic interest? A woman? Yes. Dante doesn't hesitate. Every significant decision I've made in the past 24 hours has been made with this woman in mind. My organization is falling apart because of her. My family is fragmenting because of her. And I would do it all again in a heartbeat. The defense attorney smiles, a predatory expression. Then it's fair to say that your testimony is unreliable, that you're emotionally compromised, that you're willing to destroy your own organization for the sake of temporary affection? Temporary? Dante leans forward. No. I intend to marry her. I intend to spend the rest of my life with her, regardless of whether I'm testifying in this courtroom or sitting in a federal penitentiary. So call it what you want. Love, obsession, weakness. But don't call it unreliable. Everything I'm saying is the truth. The trial continues for 3 days. More testimony. More details. The prosecution builds an airtight case against the Moretti family using evidence gathered by the Salvatore organization. The case against the Salvatore family remains ongoing, but Dante's testimony effectively saves him from prosecution while ensuring that nearly every other member of the organization will face charges. On the 4th day, the verdict comes back. The Moretti family is convicted on multiple counts of drug trafficking, money laundering, and conspiracy. Their empire is effectively destroyed. That night, Dante and I are alone in a safe house, a small apartment provided by the federal government as part of his witness protection agreement. No more penthouse, no more estate. Just 2 people in a modest space trying to figure out what comes next. Your brother will be released tomorrow, Dante tells me. The federal agency is providing him with psychiatric care. I've arranged for him to receive ongoing support. But it has to be from a distance. I can't be seen maintaining a relationship with him. It would compromise both his safety and yours. Will I be able to see him? Yes, but infrequently, and always under supervision. He pulls me close. I'm sorry, Alessia. for everything. For your parents. For bringing you into this world. For making you complicit in violence you didn't choose. I did choose. I say quietly. I chose to stay. I chose to believe you. I chose this. You chose a version of me that doesn't exist anymore, he says. In about 6 weeks, I'll be required to testify at the trial of 17 different members of my organization. Once that happens, my usefulness to the federal government ends, and my protection ends. I'll be just another convicted felon trying to rebuild a life. And us? That depends. He takes my face in his hands. Do you still want to marry a man who's completely destroyed? A man with a criminal record? A man whose organization is dismantling around him? I want to marry the man who chose me over everything else, I say. I want to marry the man who became human again. I want to marry you, Dante. In whatever form you take. We marry quietly, in a courthouse with only a federal agent and a clerk present as witnesses. There's no ring, no white dress, no family. There's just Dante and me and the absolute certainty that we're making the most dangerous choice possible. But it's ours. That's what matters. That night, after we've signed the papers that make us legally bound, Dante takes me to bed with a tenderness that breaks something in me all over again. His hands are gentle, his mouth is soft, and when we come together, it feels less like passion and more like prayer, like he's asking my body for forgiveness, and I'm giving it freely. I will spend the rest of my life earning your trust, he whispers as we lie in the darkness. Every day I'll prove to you that this choice was right. I promise you that. I know you will, I say, because you're not someone who does anything halfway. You're not someone who makes promises he doesn't keep. I've made a lot of broken promises, he says, a lot of oaths that meant nothing. But not this one. I take his face in my hands, the way he's taken mine so many times. This promise is written in blood and violence, and the complete dismantling of everything you built. This promise is the realest thing you've ever spoken. He holds me as dawn breaks over the city, and I realize that we're not safe. We'll never be completely safe. There will always be people who want to hurt him, who want to destroy what we have together. But we're as close to safe as we can get. And maybe that's enough. Maybe love in a criminal underworld isn't supposed to be clean and pure and easy. Maybe it's supposed to be this: dangerous, broken, redemptive. Maybe it's supposed to cost everything. The trials span 6 weeks. Dante testifies repeatedly, methodically dismantling his organization piece by piece. With each testimony, another member of his family is convicted. With each conviction, another part of his legacy crumbles. I sit in the courtroom gallery every day, watching the man I married systematically destroy everything he's spent 17 years building. It should horrify me. Part of it does, but another part understands that this is necessary. This is penance. This is his way of becoming something other than what his father made him. By the 6th week, nearly every significant member of the Salvatore organization has been convicted and sentenced. His mother received 25 years for her role in the organization's leadership. Several men he's known his entire life received life sentences. The Salvatore name, once feared throughout the criminal underworld, is now synonymous with betrayal. On the final day of testimony, something unexpected happens. A man stands in the courtroom gallery, older, maybe 70, with scarred hands and cold eyes. He's sitting several rows behind me, and I only notice him because of the way the federal agents suddenly tense. There's a quiet conversation between security personnel, and then 2 agents approach him. But he's already standing, already moving toward Dante on the stand. "Luca Delacroix," he says loudly, "you destroyed my family." The name means nothing to me, but it means everything to Dante. His entire body goes rigid. "That man had to be removed," Dante says, and his voice is calm in a way that suggests he's been expecting this. He was feeding information to both the FBI and the Moretti organization. He was compromised. He was my son, Luca says, and the courtroom goes silent. I didn't care about his compromised status. I cared that he was my son, and you executed him without trial, without mercy, without any consideration for the fact that he was a human being. Federal agents moved to escort Luca from the courtroom, but the judge raises a hand. Let him speak, she says. My son was working as an informant because the FBI was holding his family hostage, Luca continues, his voice breaking with rage and grief. He was trying to save his children's lives, and you knew that. You knew his circumstances, and you killed him anyway. That's not business. That's evil. He's forcibly removed from the courtroom, but his words hang in the air like a curse. Dante doesn't look at me. He doesn't react. He simply waits for the prosecutor to ask the next question, and then he answers it with the same mechanical precision he's been using for 6 weeks. But when the trial concludes and we're back in our safe house, he breaks. I find him standing at the window, staring out at the city lights, and when he turns to face me, I can see the weight of every decision he's made since that day 17 years ago. Every body, every family destroyed. Every life eliminated for the sake of business. That man's son, he says quietly. I knew his circumstances. I knew he was trying to save his children. And I made a decision that it didn't matter. That business was more important than his life. That the Salvatore organization was more important than his family. You were following your father's teachings, I say gently. I was. He agrees. And that's not an excuse, but it is a context. My father raised me to believe that sentiment is weakness, that emotion is a liability, that love is something to be eliminated before it can be used against you. He looks at me. He succeeded for a long time. He made me into something that could order executions without flinching. But then I met you, and everything he taught me shattered. And now? Now I have to live with what I've done, he says. Forever. I can't undo it. I can't apologize to the families I've destroyed because they're either dead or would spit in my face if given the opportunity. I can't make restitution because there's no amount of money that could compensate for the lives I've taken. He pulls me close, and I feel him trembling. I'm terrified that this is temporary, he whispers, that the novelty of being human will wear off, and I'll revert to the predator your parents' murderer raised me to be. I'm terrified that I'll wake up one day and realize that I've made a catastrophic mistake by choosing you over power. And if you do? Then I'm going to leave. He pulls back to look at me. I'm going to make sure you have access to protection, resources, and distance. But I won't stay and pretend that I've changed if deep down I haven't. That's honest, I say quietly. I'm trying to be more honest, he says. I'm trying to be the kind of man who deserves someone like you. That night, he makes love to me with an intensity that borders on desperation. His hands travel across my body like he's trying to memorize every inch. His mouth traces every scar, every freckle, every imperfection. And when we come together, it feels less like passion and more like a prayer answered, like my body is the only thing keeping him tethered to humanity. Afterward, lying in the darkness, he tells me about the families he's destroyed, about Luca Delacroix's son, a man named Marco who was trying to protect his children, about 3 others whose names I'll never know because their lives were too insignificant to warrant memory, about your parents, my parents, whose execution he witnessed and internalized as necessary rather than mourning as tragedy. He tells me everything, and I listen, and I don't absolve him because I'm not in a position to. But I also don't condemn him, because I understand that he's already spending his life in that condemnation. After the trials are over, he says around dawn, I'm going to start a foundation. In your parents' names. It will provide mental health resources for families affected by organized crime violence. It will be funded by the assets I'm allowed to keep under the immunity agreement. You don't have to. I do, he says. Not for forgiveness, not for redemption, but for responsibility. Because I destroyed lives. And if I can prevent even one other person from experiencing that kind of loss, then some small part of this becomes bearable. 6 months later, the trials are over. The Moretti family has been completely dismantled. The Salvatore organization no longer exists as a functional entity. Dante has spent his freedom, a strange gift from the federal government in exchange for his testimony, beginning to dismantle 17 years of carefully constructed criminal infrastructure. We live in a modest home in a quiet neighborhood. He goes to work each day at a consulting firm that advises governments on organized crime prevention. It's ironic and fitting in equal measure. The predator has become something approaching a guardian. But there's always a darkness beneath the surface. One evening, I find him in the garage staring at a punching bag that he's installed despite my protests. There's blood on his knuckles, and his breathing is heavy, and in his expression, I see the ghosts of all the people he's killed. You're thinking about it, I say, not as a question, but as a statement. Always, he answers, every day, every moment. I wake up and remember that I'm a man who ordered executions. I walk through our neighborhood and think about the families I've destroyed. I hold you and wonder how I managed to earn your love despite everything I've done. Because I know who you are now, I say quietly. Not the predator your father created, not the man you were forced to become, but the man you're choosing to be every single day, despite everything it costs you. He pulls me into his arms, burying his face in my hair. The foundation is opening next month, he says. Your brother is going to be involved. He's worked with the psychologists to create programs specifically for people who experienced trauma like his. And there's something else. What? I'm writing a book, he continues, about life inside organized crime, about the decisions that seem justified in the moment but destroy you in hindsight, about what it costs to become human again. It will be published anonymously, but the proceeds will go to the foundation. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm making you a partner in this, he says. In all of it, not as a hostage or leverage or a bargaining chip, but as my wife. As the woman who pulled me back from the edge of absolute darkness. He pulls back to look at me. And I need to know that you're still choosing this, that you're still choosing me. Every day, I say, every single day I wake up and choose you. Not because I'm compelled, but because I want to, because despite everything, you're the realest thing in my life. We go to bed that night, and for the first time since he began his testimony in court, Dante sleeps without nightmares. His arm is wrapped around me and his breathing is steady, and I lie awake for hours just watching him rest, grateful for small mercies and impossible redemptions. The next morning, something unexpected happens. Dante receives a visitor at the consulting firm, a woman with dark hair and his mother's eyes. I meet her in the conference room, and it takes me a moment to realize who she is. His younger sister, Daniela. Someone he's mentioned only in passing, someone who is kept away from the organization's operations specifically to protect her. I heard what you did, she says without preamble. I heard that you testified against your own organization, against Mother, against the entire family legacy. I did, Dante acknowledges. I came to tell you that I forgive you, Daniela continues. I forgive you for destroying the family business. I forgive you for testifying against Mother, and I'm here to tell you that you've given me my life back. Dante's expression crumbles. I was supposed to marry a man twice my age to secure an alliance between the Salvatore family and the Delacroix organization. Daniela explains. I was supposed to spend my entire life as a bargaining chip, and then you burned it all down. And suddenly, I was just a woman with a choice. She takes his hand. So thank you. Thank you for destroying everything so that I could become something other than what this family needed me to be. After she leaves, I find Dante in the bathroom crying. It's the first time I've seen him truly break since that day in the garage. Not the controlled tears he shed in the darkness of our bedroom, but actual, gut-wrenching sobs. Years of guilt and weight, and the burden of being the architect of both violence and redemption. I hold him, and I don't try to comfort him with words, because there are no words adequate to the weight of what he's experiencing. I simply hold him until the tears stop, until his breathing steadies, until he's ready to face the world again. I'm going to write something into the book, he says quietly. I'm going to dedicate it to all the people I've hurt, to all the families I've destroyed, to everyone who died because of decisions I made. It's not restitution, but it's a start. Over the following months, life becomes almost normal. We move out of the safe house and into a small cottage with a garden. Dante works his consulting job. I finish my degree and become a counselor, specializing in people who've lost family members to organized crime violence. We build a life that's quiet and unassuming and far removed from the darkness that created us. But there's always a moment in the evening when Dante goes silent, when he looks out at the sunset with an expression that suggests he's seeing something I can't see. Those moments I know he's remembering. Those moments he's carrying the weight. And I understand that he'll carry that weight forever. That there's no amount of redemption or good works that will ever fully erase the evil he's done. But I also understand that the carrying of that weight is its own form of penance. That the fact that he can't simply move past his crimes and forget about them means he's genuinely changed. On our first wedding anniversary, Dante takes me to the location where my parents' car crashed 17 years ago. It's been turned into a small memorial garden, funded by the foundation, but I didn't know that until he showed me. There are flowers planted in my parents' names. There's a small plaque with their photographs. And standing nearby is Dante, looking like a man who's finally facing the ghosts he created. I can't undo what happened to them, he says quietly. I can't bring them back. I can't make their deaths mean anything other than what they were. Tragic waste of life, caused by a business decision. But I can ensure that they're remembered. I can ensure that their deaths save other lives through the foundation's work. It's enough, I tell him, and I mean it. That night, we make love with a tenderness that's become familiar over these 6 months. His hands are gentle. His mouth is soft. And when he holds me in the darkness, I feel the weight of what he's carried and the strength it's taken to carry it without breaking completely. Do you ever regret this? He asks as we're falling asleep. Do you ever wish you'd said no that night in the diner? Do you ever wish you'd walked away? Never, I say. Because you gave me my brother back. You gave me answers about my parents. You gave me a man who's willing to spend the rest of his life trying to atone for his mistakes. That's not something I would ever regret. Even knowing what I've done? Even knowing that, I confirm. Love isn't about choosing someone who's never caused pain, Dante. Love is about choosing someone despite the pain they've caused, and believing that they can become something better. And you're becoming better. Every single day, you're becoming better. He holds me closer, and in that moment, I feel the weight lift fractionally, not disappearing, but becoming bearable. Becoming something he can carry and still have room in his life for light and love and redemption. The book is published 8 months later. It becomes a bestseller, shocking everyone who reads it because of the raw honesty it contains. Dante doesn't reveal his identity. The agreement with the federal government prohibits it, but readers piece together the truth eventually. What matters is that the proceeds fund the foundation, and the foundation saves lives. A year after the trial's end, Dante and I stand in a hospital room holding our newborn son. He's beautiful and perfect, and completely oblivious to the darkness that created him. I watch Dante cradle him, and in his expression, I see something I wasn't sure was possible. Genuine hope. Not the desperate hope of a man trying to redeem himself, but the steady hope of a father looking at the future he's building. "What should we name him?" Dante whispers. I think about my parents, about my brother, about all the people whose lives were destroyed in the pursuit of power and control. I think about the man holding this child, a man who ordered executions, who built an empire on violence, who chose to dismantle everything to be worthy of love. Marco, I say, after my brother, after the man who drove your world to chaos, after the imperfection that started everything. Dante looks down at our son, and a smile crosses his face, real and genuine, and more beautiful than anything else he's ever done. Marco, he says softly. He'll be better than both of us. He'll grow up in a world without violence, without the weight of empire, without the burden of legacy. He'll grow up knowing who his father was, I say, and he'll grow up knowing that his father chose to become something better. That night, as I watch Dante sleep, beside our son, one hand protectively over Marco's small back, I understand something fundamental. Love isn't about erasing the past. It isn't about redemption or forgiveness or absolution. It's about choosing someone despite their darkness and believing in the possibility that they can choose light. And in choosing Dante despite everything he's done, I've chosen the greatest love story of my life, not because it's pure or easy, but because it's real, because it cost everything, because it's the kind of love that transforms not just the lovers, but the world around them. Outside our window, the city glows with a million lights. Somewhere in that city, the foundation is helping people heal from the violence Dante's choices created. Somewhere in that city, his brother is building a future that seems impossible just 6 months ago. Somewhere in that city, there's the ruins of an empire that no longer exists because a man chose love over legacy. And in our quiet house, in our small world, we're building something that can't be burned down or destroyed or weaponized. We're building a life. And that, finally, is enough.